Chapter 71, Lodging and Skill Combinations. The woman at the front desk had a stern attitude as she handled all the mercenaries coming in and out. I went forward and laid out a pile of rank B cores to start it off so I could gauge the level of wealth I held. 50 rank B cores rolled on the table. The woman taking her time to count them all carefully, her cold voice rang out. 50 deconstructed rank B cores, amounting to 10 full cores. They can be exchanged for 100 gold coins. I listened to this conversion from cores to the common currency of gold coins and nodded my agreement towards the front desk. 100 glistening gold coins appeared on the table the next instant, and I took them into one of my storage rings. Before I turned and left, the woman spoke again in the same cold tone. Will you be joining the extermination task force heading to the Skypeak nest tomorrow? Your power matches the requirements. A task force that was heading towards one of the nests? My eyes gleamed as I heard about this, and I asked for more information. The task force is made up of mostly rank A and a few rank S mercenaries that are leaving at 9 a.m. sharp if you plan to join. Here is an identification medal that will keep track of all the mercenaries on this mission. Don't be late. I grabbed the outstretched medal from the woman and thanked her for the information as I turned away. The medal was very light on the hands and had the symbol of 2 crossing swords. I placed some energy into it and felt thin lines of connection to a few points in Mercenary's hideout as well as points that extended all over the town. I got used to all of these new things as I became glad at being able to visit a nest where monsters congregated so soon. There were terrifying presences on just the one floating landmass that I saw on the way here, and I didn't want to risk my life by going there alone while I still haven't accumulated all that many rank S and rank A skills aside from the collection of rank A or lower mercenaries. A sparse amount of rank S could be seen as I exited the hideout and walked outside. My next destination was a beautifully designed inn that had various women standing outside of it. The few that I passed by called out to me, "Hey handsome, do you need any company tonight? Big boy, are you up for some fun?" Women of varying ages and sizes were spread out and talking to many of the people that were going in and out of this large lodging. It seemed completely normal as some could be seen heading inside with someone they just began talking to while others left the lodging with exhausted faces. I ignored the calls and comments from the many people around me as I went inside the building, and went in even faster after I saw a guy with a face full of makeup heading my way. The inside of the building was much quieter, with the noise stopping the moment you passed through the double doors. I went towards the counter where a red-haired girl was acting as the receptionist and asked for a single room. "A single room for the night will be 2 gold coins, sir. We also have the special offer of reserving a room for an entire week, all for the small price of 10 gold coins." I nodded towards the girl throwing out the sales pitch as I picked up a sheet that wrote down the different options and their rates. The sheet also had a section below that described the foods they offered in their dining area. "Just the single room works. And let me have the fiery soup and rhino special for now." "Yes, sir." It all comes out to a total of 3 gold coins. The girl cheerfully gave me a bronze key and led to a table in the dining area where I didn't wait too long for the food to be brought out. The dish that was called fiery soup was an extremely spicy broth that came in large wooden bowl which had bountiful diced up meats that tasted better than anything I've had before. The spice lingered in your mouth and got hotter the more that you ate. With meat being extremely soft, the rhino special was a platter of what seemed like prime ribs, but much larger and much more appetizing. I spent the next 30 minutes enjoying what was arguably the best of the many meals I would be having from now on before I went towards room number 34 that the key took the shape of. I climbed the sturdy wooden stairs of the hotel and walked through a narrow hallway before finding the room and entering. A simple bed filled with feathers was in the middle of the room, with a door leading to a wide bathtub-looking structure and a toilet off to the side. There was a ladle that was likely used for bathing attached to a large bucket that had steaming water in it. I curiously went to check out the bathroom and found the water in the bucket to continue replenishing to a specific level. After I scooped some out, it remained the same temperature of warmth at the same time too. The bucket holding the water was attached to the ground with a pipe at the bottom of it. I got used to all these new things I was seeing for the first time as I reflected on every wondrous sight I saw today and then moved on to combine more of my skills. Tomorrow would be the first beginning of my rise from this place, and I wanted to be at my peak. The only way for my strength to jump crazily was to gain a skill of higher rank, and there were 2 ways of doing this for me. I could combine multiple compatible S rank skills until they broke through to the next rank, or start off even lower with rank B skills to rank A, and then rank A to S. The other way was to simply hunt and kill multiple beasts and collect the skills the old-fashioned way. I would proactively use both ways, as using multiple skills and keeping them active was not a problem for me. There were multiple rank B skills that I learned more than a week ago as I was leaving the United Federation that had long since reached 100 proficiency. There were also 2 rank A skills that were compatible that I would be combining. The rest of the rank A skills would also be ready for combination soon, giving me even more things to look forward to. None of the rank S skills were anywhere near a 100 though, as it became progressively harder to raise the proficiency of higher ranked skills. I used the skill combination function, and was able to produce a few rank B+ skills, as well as a new rank A+ skill by combing the rank of Frigid Impermanence and Permafrost to bring out a plus Arctic Zone Freeze and destabilize an entire area of 10 meters, shattering everything in it. I learned Permafrost as I was leaving the United Federation, so I made the goal to spam this skill a whole lot while I was doing cleanup around the Empire before I left so I could raise the proficiency the fastest. It was a skill that had obvious compatibility with the Frigid Impermanence. The new Arctic Zone skill made me excited to combine another rank A+ compatible skill and put them together to watch for what rank S skill would come out of it. The rank B+ skills I was able to synthesize were Hardened Body Armor, Strengthened Strikes, Mirror of Repulsion, and Emerald Skin. The moment they appeared on the attribute panel, I activated them and waited for their proficiency to rise once more before I combined them too. It would be a long process, but my power would continue to spike the more skills I combined. I laid down on the feathered mattress as I waited for the next day to arrive, where my adventure would fully begin. Chapter 72 Wonder. I slept more comfortably than I imagined. The denser concentration of energy in this world made it feel like you were in the best possible location anywhere you went. I went down the wooden stairs to see people already actively moving in and out of the inn. The receptionist with the red hair was already up at the counter. I went towards her and ordered another fiery soup to have for breakfast before I went out. Thus, the morning began on a happy note. I moved outside into the town and saw the world during daytime for the first time. A blanket of snow covered the buildings and the paths, making for a beautiful sight as the rays of the sun shone through. I looked up to see the huge mountains surrounding us far in the distance, as well as the 4 grand land masses that were stably positioned in the air without a single movement. I still couldn't even begin to understand how such a thing was possible. A few people could be seen every now and then ascending the long bridges attached further inland from this town. I looked away from the majestic sight of floating islands and went towards the mercenaries' hideout, where a collection of colorful, rugged men and women were clustered, putting energy into the metal I received the day before. Most of the thin lines of people were grouped up in one location that allowed me to find them all very easily. There was a large space behind the grand building that had white-winged beasts moving around. Someone was holding a large basin that he pulled out large chunks of meat from to feed the beasts. The people in the extermination task force were CLU.S. tiered in a group on the side, talking amongst themselves as they all waited for the appointed time. The minutes passed by quickly as a large man whose entire body emanated power came out to the clearing. "All right, boys and girls, gather around." At these words, the mercenaries that were mostly rank A with a few rank S ones in the group all looked towards this figure with full attention. The mission this time is plain and simple. The Skypeak nest is showing signs of rapid movements again, which means the beasts are increasing and getting more restless. We're not gonna spend too much time there, just clear out a few leaders and their groups before we return. I am Captain Reiner, and I'll be leading this excursion to make sure there are no deaths. The large man spoke out with a powerful voice that seemed to rouse the spirits of everyone here. After we successfully return, each person in attendance will receive 5,000 gold coins and keep any cores from the beasts they manage to take down. At the mention of rewards, the mercenaries shouted out as we began moving towards the large groups of winged beasts. Each beast could take on more than 5 people, and I found myself soaring through the skies with 3 rank A mercenaries and 1 rank S. I would follow the lead of others for now as I learn more about these nests and choose how to move from there. The winged beasts we were riding on had heads that looked similar to an eagle's, but their wide bodies that allowed more than 5 people to stand on showed they were something else. I found out they were called white-winged beasts, a type of beast that could easily be tamed as long as it was fed daily. We flew on these beasts and passed the huge wall of a fortress where guards with similar beasts were stationed. Mercenaries assigned to specific missions had the pass to fly over the town if they were using these beasts. We left the entry town of the Frozen Kingdom and went towards the huge floating landmass I had seen on the way here. I listened to the conversations of two of the mercenaries that seemed to be familiar with each other who were talking about this nest. Oi, remember to follow the lead of that captain. I've heard some inflated nobodies ignored commands and went further into the beast nest only to never come out. TSK, how many times do you have to give pointers, eh? I know we'll definitely be staying in the outer ring of the nest this time around. There should be very few S-rank beasts out there. The two seemed to be arguing and giving each other tips to stay alive all at once, but their words indicated that there were powerful beasts congregated in this floating island. I wasn't sure how far into the nest the beasts higher than rank S would start to appear. I kept my mouth shut just in case, as I didn't want there to be any possibility of me giving something about my identity away. I would learn as things progress and find some time to locate a library after this to spend some time there and see what more I can learn about this world, the collection of memories that the system put together after absorbing the essence of many beasts was just that, mostly memories from low-ranking beasts. I would have to do my own research to fully grasp the workings of a place like this kingdom where humans had control. We neared the floating landmass after 20 minutes, where the outline of the island became visible using eagle eyes. I watched as I saw groups of beasts walking around near the edge of the landmass. Dense and extremely tall trees blanketed in snow began rising as my sight looked further in, where barely anything but a white outline of trees could be seen. The white-winged beasts landed on the edge of the landmass as they drew the attention of surrounding beasts that rushed over here. Beasts ranging from C and all the way to A were running about. Captain Reiner took the lead, jumping off the winged beast like a valiant warrior as his body seemed to be bubbling with energy. There was a large red broadsword that appeared in his arms, which he swung towards the coming beasts. A parabolic line of flames was drawn out, going forward and bisecting all the incoming beasts. All right, lads, the battle begins now. When you see the ugly faces of rank S beasts appear, especially the larger leaders, be on high alert. The leaders he was mentioning were what I considered bosses or titans back then, with them holding a denser collection of essence that allowed for skills and items to be farmed from. Many were large to correspond to their large amounts of energy, but the truly powerful ones could be small as they held enough control over their energy to remain that size and use it to their advantage. The mercenaries spread out as those of the S rank took the lead, with me following closely behind the captain as we went further into the Skypeak nest. Chapter 73, Epic. I was able to see the power of the humans of this world firsthand as I observed the leading peak rank S captain hold his own against a rank S boss. We didn't have to move too far into come in contact with them. After passing through the large trees that were covered by snow, ferocious-looking white beasts began appearing. They had disproportionately large hands and feet with smaller bodies that didn't seem to match. This size was even more exaggerated when it came to the rank S leader that neared 10 meters. Sharp icicles would form at the wave of these beasts' hands as the mercenaries worked together to bring them down. The leading S rank, Captain Reiner, was holding his own while standing against a leader, his large broadsword roiling with fire elements as each clash left wounds on the beast. I worked with the group I came with as I continued observing everything first, using the rank A Infernal Purge every few seconds after watching some of the fire power of the few rank S mercenaries in the group. The blazing flames that came crashing down were extremely deadly to the normal beasts, setting their entire bodies aflame if a single one touched them. As for the looting of cores, the mercenaries cut open the heads of the beasts they killed to pull out cores much larger than what I had been used to seeing. These were the full cores of beasts that weren't broken down into smaller portions by the system that hunters back in my world worked with. When it came to the monsters I took down myself, I recalled the words of the system. I would be in a different world, but still holding that same power. The only change was that it would only be triggered when I came in contact with the beings that I took down. To make things even more seamless, the extracted essence in the form of skill books, items, or cores would directly be placed in one of my storage rings when I would normally harvest cores like other inhabitants of this world. With this in mind, the Extermination groups moved forward while staying close together and taking down the beasts that came rushing out. I was amazed at the strength of the humans here, as even the rank A mercenaries utilized their strength and essence better than the hunters I had always observed. Only after the hunters begin to fully utilize skill combination do I see them catching up and eventually exceeding this level of strength. The S-rank hunters came out with colorfully destructive spells that mowed down the normal rank A beasts and would only be blocked by rank S leaders. One red-haired mercenary raised her magic staff forward and a blazing phoenix appeared in the next moment, rushing towards a group of beasts where it exploded and engulfed them in flames in an instant. I observed all of this as I continued to use Infernal Purge to take down normal rank A and S beasts, along with a few rank A leaders so that I could increase my collection of rank A skills. Today wasn't the day for me to go all out and massacre everything on sight. I would watch and learn as much as I could before I find the time to come out here myself and go all out. I was filled with expectations as I thought about running around this huge nest with all the beasts in it. I would have confirmed the highest power of beasts that lay deeper in the nest first though, as I couldn't play around with my life. The power I was showing matched the rank S mercenaries, as even though the damage was somewhat lower than rank S skills, I could put up the act that Infernal Purge could be casted more frequently because of its low damage. My role in the task force became handling the large groups of normal rank A and S beasts, while the other rank S mercenaries clashed against the leaders low-key. I had to start off by being low-key for now. Captain Reiner began looking towards me favorably as I made the work easier by clearing many of the beasts with the area of attack skills. My attention wasn't all placed onto this one thing though, as during the hunt I had always been checking and combining the active defense and support skills that continued to rise in proficiency. Through the combinations, I was able to produce a few compatible rank B skills that weren't worth a mention as they were right now, but would be useful when I received rank S skills through them. It would take a few more days, but those few days meant more than 4 rank S skills would come to light from the combination of multiple rank B+ skills. I smiled at this thought, as rising skills this way meant I could continue to build up compatible skills that will be able to combine to rank S with no problems. Defense and support skills that boosted me by a large margin would not be a game of chance anymore. The extermination task force was performing extremely well with the decent leadership from the captain and my addition that made the work all the easier. An entire half a day passed as we moved across the fringes of the Sky Peak nest, never daring to go too far in land. After we cleared many of the disproportionately sized beasts, we came across other varieties as we went further in. After we finished clearing a few more beast groups, the mercenaries came to a halt at the command of Captain Reiner. His hand was in the air as he looked forward with deep concentration. We were in a position that was further inland than any other time as the beasts had begun to thin out in the periphery. His large voice rang out, "We will stop here today. If we move any further in, we will intrude in an epic ranked beast's territory." At the mention of this, the mercenaries adopted solemn faces as they began to move back. My heart palpitated as I confirmed the next rank above's epic rank. Many ideas passed in my head before I quickly knocked them down. I wouldn't be so rash as to have a head-on collision of something that high of a rank before I collect many defensive rank as skills. I would rather be overly prepared and protected than suddenly lose my life with rash decisions. I breathed out calmly as I followed the rest of the group to move out of the huge land floating in the sky. A voice rang out. I was lost in my thoughts. "Rookie, exemplary work out there today. It cut our time by more than an hour. Where has someone like you with a large mana pool been hiding all this time?" I came out of my head and smiled at the captain that appeared beside me. I was honing my skills privately until I was confident enough to take on these beasts. Haha, honing your skills until you reach such a high rank? You're too cautious. If you had trained with other mercenaries, that flame skill of yours might have already reached S rank. He paused as he looked me up and down before continuing. "Come back with a few of my people, so you can get to know the mercenaries you'll be working with from now on. We can't let a talent like you go to waste." Haha, sure. I listened to the large man's words and agreed to go along. I had to become known in this frozen kingdom little by little. I wouldn't start off with an explosive show of power that would raise heads, but become known slowly as my power increased in the shadows. Chapter 74, A Chance Encounter. We flew away from the floating nest on the white-winged beasts, Passing through the cold winds that now also had the addition of heavy snow as dark clouds hung overhead, my sight was locked onto the skypeak nest that I would most definitely visit for myself in the future. I was lost in my thoughts as we passed through the falling snow and became entranced with the scene playing out. The land floating in the sky receded from view as we approached the outline of the frozen kingdom. The minutes passed by in the skies as I introduced myself to the mercenaries I worked with today. We passed over the huge fortress wall and landed in the back of the mercenaries' hideout in a few minutes, where 5,000 gold was given to every participating mercenary as a surprised receptionist came out and saw us returning much earlier than expected. I was looking forward to learning the rank A skill books now sitting in one of my storage rings as I followed Captain Reiner's group. It was him and 4 other S-rank hunters. After the extermination task was confirmed and the rewards handed out, we went further into the kingdom past the entrance town. The buildings became larger and grander the further in we went, and the beginning of one of the grandiose bridges that snaked towards the sky to one of the floating lands above us appeared. The bridge was wide and long, with rank 2S guards decked in an exquisite white metal armor standing guard. Anyone that wanted to pass the checkpoint had to have proper authorization or they would face the cold blades of the 2 guards if they tried anything funny. The boisterous attitude of Captain Reiner came to a stop as we neared the bridge and saw an escort taking place. An exquisite carriage waited besides the bridge. A veiled woman that became surrounded by peak rank S guards got off and was walked towards the bridge. Captain Reiner's entire demeanor changed as his voice lowered before he respectfully called out to the figures in front of us in a tone I was hearing for the first time today. "Princess, it's my extreme pleasure being graced with your sight today." His voice was low but clear, ringing out clearly in the ears of the figures up front. The guards standing besides the veiled woman showed annoyed expression as they turned to look at Reiner, seemingly this not being the first time they've come across something like this. The veiled woman turned to this direction and nodded towards Reiner, which made him break out the largest smile as if he had won the lottery. I looked at this scene in fascination as it seemed this captain was completely stricken with the woman up front, but could only look from afar. The figures turned and began climbing towards the bridge, but not before I felt a gaze linger on me for a few seconds. I turned to the escort of people that were leaving and wondered if I had just thought wrong. Reiner moved with much more vigor after this as we entered into a much more expensive-looking tavern than the ones I've seen on the way here. The tavern was much more high-class, with private rooms that gave it an air of calmness. There were no boisterous noises from mercenaries as it seemed a noise-canceling function was activated the moment the doors to the private rooms closed. We soon grabbed a private room of our own and sat on a thick soft furred carpet around a circular table. Reiner was animatedly moving around as the best dishes were ordered and the mercenaries began talking. Hey, Captain Reiner seems to be completely taken in by the terrifying ice princess, eh? Bah, what do you know? I heard Her Highness main guard would be retiring soon and I just signed up for the possibility of being chosen when the selection happens. Reiner had began biting down on the huge chunks of meat as he talked back to the jeering mercenary. "Oh, you actually think you stand a chance from all those geniuses that are fighting for the position?" The burly captain gave a hard look to the voice that spoke as he snorted and replied, "My power is peak rank S. If I don't stand a chance, nobody does." The mercenaries continued their back and forth as I listened in and enjoyed the food. The Ice Princess was apparently one of the royalties residing and controlling the snowy peak that was floating not too far from us. The subject of the people currently in power who controlled the forces of the Frozen Kingdom made me think about my own plans to increase my influence in the future. The easiest path was to rise to epic rank or higher, obtaining a level of strength that would allow me to carry out many plans. But how do I go about it without causing bloodshed and strife on these people that were not the enemies I came here for? Rising through the ranks in times of war would be the best possible outcome, but the Frozen Kingdom was surrounded by mountains and had tight defenses. The forces of demons that were spreading out might target this kingdom soon, but I didn't know when. For now, I would prepare as much as I could before events explode. There were many titles under my name: the Ice Princess by the commoners, the Doted Princess by the nobles, the Frigid Bitch by my enemies, but none of that mattered to me. Because I was living on borrowed time, I had no energy to spare to those that fawned over me or those that criticized me. I held the unique skill, golden rule, that was passed down since my beloved mother met her death. On the bed when she lay with her life force slowly leaking out, she screamed to the little girl who was in shock. "Be smart," she screamed. "Be strong," she said. "Use the power that I am passing down to the fullest, as a terrible calamity is coming towards us all." She said all of this to a frightened girl that was losing her mother and then passed away. I imprinted those last words into my brain from that day forward, using the skill handed down to me to get through many of the political messes in one piece. The skill showed a dark light whenever my older brother, the crown prince, looked at me, so I avoided him and anything to do with him like a plague. It showed a green light whenever my naive younger brother played with me, so I kept him close and made him rely on me. It showed a light blue light with my father, so I acted as the most perfect daughter and gained his affection, making me cruise through to my unshakable position that I have currently. Those that crossed me often met with misfortune or death, making those cowards utter the name of frigid bitch whenever they gossiped among themselves. I used my means to establish an extensive information agency that saw all the happenings of the kingdom and its surroundings, with more than half of its departments focused on my older brother, who shone in a dangerous black light. But all of this wasn't enough. My own fate was still murky. My unique skill showed me that undoubtedly all that I had done had changed nothing, and that death was still approaching. A calamity was still coming. No amount of information I collected was enough. This fostered something that was my only weakness to this day, the fear of the approaching death. Even the strongest powerhouses of this kingdom did not deter the skill from sending me the same message. I worried about the demons that were constantly increasing their influence across the lands. As I thought about the impending calamity, I exhausted all my resources. I surrounded myself with the best of guards from the kingdom. That my escorts were no less powerful than those protecting the crown prince, the bastard that would most likely take control of the kingdom once my father passed. I could feel the malice he had towards me, even though my position did not come close to threatening him right now. I could recently feel his malice towards our father, which made me even more cautious, to the point that I began putting plans into place that would put my own life on the line. I didn't bring myself to act yet. As I continued calculating all the possible scenarios, would it be regicide, corruption, or betrayal that I had to stop? No answers presented themselves over the years as my fate continued to become darker and darker, that is, until today. Chapter 75: The Library. The change occurred when I was making my way back to Snowy Peak. After my attention was called to one of the many people that looked at me with fervent eyes, I witnessed a blinding golden light that completely took me by surprise. If I didn't have the veil on my face today, they would have all seen my shocked expression at the sight of one man brilliantly shining with a golden light. I moved my sight the instant I could see him begin turning and resumed climbing the bridge. My lips moved silently as a message that could only be heard by the ears of one of my most trusted aides came out. The aide hiding in the shadows was surprised, but quickly moved as she pulled back from her position and stayed with the carriage below. She was an expert in her own right and would not be caught monitoring the group that was still gazing towards me. My shock was due to the fact that I had never seen a golden light on a single being my entire life. The unique skill Golden Rule had activated to its peak of the color gold, as it let me know I had found the thing I was searching for all this time. The color gold was the highest it could show. And even that golden light was shining so bright that it almost blinded my eyes. This unknown figure would be the one to save me from death. He would be the one that stands between me and a calamity. My heart fluttered as I tried to calm myself. This feeling was not one that many people could come across, the feeling of finally having something you have been searching for so long in arm's length. I would not let it get away. Whatever I had to do, even if I had to give up my soul, I would find a way to hold on to this opportunity. This person would have to be treated with utmost care. I thought for a bit before my lips moved once more, sending another message to the already shocked aide, who didn't think her shock could increase even more today. Now, I just had to wait. The meal with the mercenaries ended on a good note, with me hearing tidbits of information that made me all the more curious to find a library in this town and see what things I can glean from it. I broke off from the loud mercenaries that continued to discuss the same princess and other nobles they took fancy to as I walked around different parts of this large kingdom. Figures of mostly humans and a few demi-humans packed the streets as everything ranging from taverns, inns, and stores selling a variety of things were present. Some stores held weapons and armor made from different materials and beasts. Others were selling small but colorful beasts as pets in shops that many people congregated in. I walked past all of these sites for the next few minutes as I soon came upon a large building with the sign of a book up front. I opened the large doors and came into a scene of peace with people quietly moving around as books floated on and off shelves. I went towards the librarian that turned out to be a middle-aged man with a goatee and asked for some books on the kingdom's history. He looked my figure up and down in a perplexed manner as he grabbed the staff near him and tapped it down 4 times, which led 4 thick books to fly out and land on the counter. Only people of higher status chose to spend their time reading books, so there was a fee to use the reading space in the library. I gave the librarian 1 gold and carried the books towards a corner of the building with enthusiasm. I hadn't read books in quite a while and looked forward to learning about the large world I was in. The last half of the day passed like this, with me doing something I never pictured myself doing when I first became a hunter. Flipping through the many pages and reading was not too bad, as almost everything was new information I was learning about for the first time. Also, through the use of recorder, I was able to quickly bring up information on something that I had seen before by just recalling a few words about it, whereby like a film, the moment that I read about it would replay in front of me. I was looking forward to getting more skills like these that don't necessarily have any offensive and defensive power, but were useful as they were. The information I learned was expansive. Starting with the Frozen Kingdom and its 4 peaks, the kingdom was under the rule of a powerful individual whose strength was a rank above epic. The ruler of this kingdom is called the illustrious ruler, King Rourke Belmont. He had led this human kingdom that remained the only one of its kind in the beast world to prosperity for the past 100 years. Under his rule, humans faced no persecution and he welcomed demi-humans to come live in the kingdom in search of better lives. His peaceful policies allowed for the continued growth of his kingdom and the goodwill of the mythical kingdoms of beasts. Rulers of the beast kingdoms did not bother with the rising kingdom in the north, where it was plagued by the cold environment and tough terrain that previous rulers could not fully overcome. King Rourke made his legacy by elevating the kingdom to greater heights during his reign until it stood toe-to-toe with the most powerful of kingdoms in the world. Surrounded by mountains, the Frozen Kingdom was easy to defend, with enemies only able to trek from one direction. The kingdom held 4 great land masses above them that were called Snowy Peak, Frozen Paradise, Summit Peak, and King's Crown. The kingdom thrived on vegetation and animals that grew specialized for the cold, with a wide array of plants that allowed for a booming economy. There was such a wide array of history with this kingdom that I was almost overwhelmed with the task of rising to become one of its influential figures in the near future, but the tremendous power I held affirmed my resolution. I would follow the plan of taking down beasts in these surrounding nests around this kingdom and slowly grow. I will clash with epic ranked beasts the moment I was fully confident and equipped with a wide array of rank S skills. Surely, even if it takes some time, my goals would be achieved. Chapter 76, Going Solo. I left the library behind as I processed tons of information about the world I was in. After spending a few hours reading, I felt like I deserved a break. I found the same inn I stayed in the night before and enjoyed the different types of meals before going up the wooden steps to a room upstairs. I enjoyed the ancient-looking aesthetics as I fell on the bed and relaxed my body. Many thoughts came and went as I looked up to the ceiling and tried to fall asleep. This would be denied of me. However, as I heard light knocks from the door right after, I became alert as there shouldn't really be anyone that would need to do this right now and hoped it was somebody working for the inn. It couldn't be any of the mercenaries I worked with today, either. I went forward with caution and opened the door to be faced with the figure of a woman all dressed in black bowing down. My deepest apologies, sir. I was tasked with delivering a message from my lady. Would you be so kind as to let me in for a few seconds? The person in front of me was fully covered top to bottom in a black material and let out a rank S level of power. I thought about her words and wondered just what had occurred to cause somebody's attention to turn to me. I had been very careful, to the level of only using a rank A skill and showing power equivalent to a normal rank S. Maybe I was overthinking things and this would not be a major deal. I looked around the dark hallway of the inn as I nodded to the woman and closed the door. The moment we were enclosed in the room, dark magical power emanated from the woman as a thin barrier went to cover the entirety of the room. My lady demands complete secrecy, so I thank you for entertaining me. I calmly looked at the thin barrier that seemed to prevent any sounds coming out from the room and looked towards this person and said, "All right, be straightforward and tell me what you're talking about. You can call me Knight. My lady wanted to meet you for a discussion whenever you were available, preferably sooner rather than later. Her status is applicated and she is committed to doing everything in secrecy. The woman calling herself Knight pulled out a golden plaque that had Snowy Peak written on it, stretching it out towards me. Please visit Snowy Peak's famous white courtyard whenever you can. We promise not to waste too much of your time. As soon as I received the plaque and looked piercingly at the woman in front of me, her figure began blending into the night. She gave another quick bow towards me before she completely disappeared, and the thin barrier around the room also faded away. I looked at the golden plaque in my hands as my mind began to churn. There were a few things to note from this meeting. First, this person that I had somehow gained the interest of is very powerful, so powerful that someone as experienced as that dark-clothed woman followed her commands every time the woman called Knight spoke. She referred to that lady with the highest respect. This made me question if it was someone in an extremely high position or someone with a rank higher than S, or both. The fact that they lived on one of the kingdom's 4 floating peaks meant she could be a noble or someone with immense wealth. The second thing to note was the goodwill they were sending my way. That very important person wanted a meeting, but she sent someone to relay her wishes and allowed me to choose when I would go to this meeting or whether I would even go at all. This was the most perplexing of things. Why was this person offering me such respect too? She obviously has enough power to compel a powerful rank S, so what made me stand out in her eyes that I received such treatment? I continued to mull over the entire interaction, even using recorder to go back and watch the scene that just played out multiple times to see if I missed anything. I couldn't glean anything else from it. Just the fact that even though I had garnered the attention of someone powerful with the way they were acting, it shouldn't be malicious in any way. I still had to be careful though, so I would advance my plans a bit and take a risk tomorrow. I would increase my power by farming the Skypeak nest. Before I do anything else, the night that should have been a relaxing one became restless as my rapidly moving thoughts pushed the sleep I wanted further and further away. Early in the morning, I went out of the inn and into the bustling streets of the fascinating kingdom. As I made my way towards the huge fortress wall that led outside, a thinner layer of snow covered the ground today, with clear blue skies hanging overhead. The large metal gates of one of the entrances of the walled fortress was halfway opened as carriages and people moved in and out, with mercenary parties being seen moving about here and there. Besides the nests that beasts congregated in, there were dungeons that were naturally formed and maintained from this world's essence that many adventurers and parties ventured in. These dungeons differed in ranks, with the highest ones near this kingdom being epic rank. A lot of this knowledge came from the time I spent in the library. These dungeons spread out all over the world were different from the dangerous ones I had been normally used to, and they seemed like this world's way to raise the strength of its inhabitants. The system in my world had gone a completely different direction and created a system of power that more easily extracted essence and made its inhabitants rapidly grow in strength from dungeons created by invading forces. After these dungeons were taken care of in the future, I wouldn't be surprised if I find properly created dungeons meant only to raise the strength of hunters. A dungeon break would not occur with these types of dungeons, as they were most likely properly maintained with this world's core, with more essence being placed into them to replenish the origins of the beings in it. From the information I read, the higher ranking the dungeon was, the more massive it would be. Some adventure parties found themselves spending a few days inside to completely clear an epic ranked dungeon. These dungeons would be another way for me to speedily increase my power, but I would start with the nests where many beasts congregated first. There were many leaders for me to take down and gain skills, and I should be safe as long as I do not go too far in. These extremely massive dungeons would be my next step. After I collect more information, I passed by the busy doors of the large fortress and made my way around the throngs of mostly humans and a few demi-humans, activating all of my concealing skills before I used flight. Once I strayed far enough, I flew through the skies, heading towards the huge landmass that beasts congregated in. This time I would be going all out and targeting as many rank S beasts as I could. The goal was to get at least a few defensive rank S skills that would bring me more confidence if I ever came across a deadly situation of facing something of higher rank. Chapter 77, Skypeak Nest. The white lands passed beneath me as I flew at high speeds towards the Skypeak nest. It remained magnificently in the air, and I flew around it to land on the opposite direction that the extermination task force cleared out last time. The beasts in that area had already begun propagating again, but I went around to an area where I could see even more beasts congregated. I could feel the auras of a few rank S leaders as I neared, and I started by casting Summon Virulent Abomination, the Lovable. But disgusting beast made its appearance again, this time in another world. It roared out while it sensed the thicker essence surrounding us, seemingly filled with energy and ready to begin. I smiled at this figure as we smashed down onto the periphery of the nest. Alerting the nearby rank A and lower beasts, I gave the summon the command to focus on the left side while I focused on the right. I wanted to see my destructiveness with all of the rank S skills I held currently. The summon moved as soon as it received the command, its figure plunging into the group of rushing beasts as I focused on the ones coming for me and casted Rage of the Thunder Monarch. Boom. The area of 15 meters ahead of me was filled with thick electrical snakes and purple lightning that struck and decimated anything it touched. The loud impact brought to attention even more beasts as droves came out of the insanely tall trees covered in snow. Haha. Let's go. I felt the excitement of using immensely powerful skills to take down beasts again as two transparent mountains appeared in front of me and spat out molten lava and flames, the quick destruction prompting an S-rank leader to finally rush towards me. It evaded the extreme heat of the volcanic eruption I casted and went around, coming at me from behind. The moment the beast neared, I used the rank A+ skill Arctic Zone for the first time. The entire area of 10 meters that the beast was in quickly froze over, stopping it in its tracks as its white fur trembled. It was heavily slowed down while the affected area continued to be destabilized by the chaotic cold elements. It wasn't heavily injured as its attribute was also cold, but it gave me confirmation that rank A+ skills were not too far off of rank S in power. While the rank S beast was slowed down, heavy purple lightning rained down at its location. The white-furred beast with a disproportionate body used its long limbs to defend from the killer attacks, each roiling strike of lightning destroying chunks of its flesh. I spammed another Arctic Zone, further slowing down its movements, and then casted another Rage of the Thunder Monarch to finally overwhelm its tight defense. The repeated casts of the rank A+ and S skill finally brought down the beast. I went towards its nearly destroyed body and placed my hand on it, feeling the movement of essence as an item and some cores appeared in one of my storage rings. The item was an extremely long blue sword called Blue Terror, disappointing me a bit as I wanted more defensive or support skills right now, but the day was only beginning. There were many more beasts to take down. The Virulent Abomination was putting in work, now clashing against another rank S leader as its body continuously released noxious blasts of air. The white-furred beast it was fighting against became increasingly overwhelmed as the fight continued. With the Abomination fighting and taking damage but not reacting one bit, I neared the area and gave a command, the Abomination exploding in a storm of poisoned flesh and bones that cemented themselves into the body of the beast, bringing it to its knees as it wheezed for dear life. A large malachite runic circle appeared near me as the Virulent Abomination came out as good as new, rejoining the fight and finishing it with another release of a noxious blast. This beast dropped a skill book this time around. It was all element resistance that I quickly learned. It was an active skill that increased your defenses against elemental attacks once activated. But as always, I would have it active all the time. The fight was gradually drawing to a close as we took down most of the beasts in this area. I could see my cold breath coming out as I collected the cores from the other beasts on the ground and looked towards the thickets of large trees in front of us. The trees taller than me by multiple times stood as strong as ever, their cover giving a menacing feeling for those that dared to enter its depth. I recalled how far in we came last time with the lead of Captain Reiner and carefully made my way in. Curious beasts that had heard the vibrations of the fight that just occurred were already nearing the area, with us meeting more just a few minutes after the Abomination and I walked into the mass of trees. The combination of Arctic Zone to slow down powerful leaders and also deal killer blows to normal beasts as their bodies were frozen and shattered, as well as the use of Rage of the Thunder Monarch right after became my new favorite. Spam skills with their efficiency. I also brought myself to repeatedly use the offensive rank A skills that weren't as efficient against the higher ranked beast, but I wanted to increase their proficiency for skill combination. I was now leaning towards more support and defensive skills that I could keep active all the time without worry, as they would quickly rise in proficiency and be perfect for combination if we met a collection of larger groups of beasts. Volcanic eruption was perfect. but it caused such intense damage to the surroundings that the thick white trees caught fire for a few minutes and called in even more droves of beasts towards us. The naturally cold elements that congregated in the air reduced the fire and distinguished it in the next few minutes, and no beast higher than rank S had come out so far, so it wasn't too much of a problem. We were able to take down a few rank A leaders and 2 more rank S. The rank S loot worthy of mentioning was the rank S item storage pouch that held a much larger space than the lower-ranked storage rings I had been using and attached itself to my waist when equipped. The other one was a skill called Protection of the Wounded. Injuries cause you no fear as your defense is increased by 200 while the skill is active. A smile bloomed on my face as I finally got a high-ranked support skill and a defensive one at that. Chapter 78 Caution. The new rank S skill was quickly learned, along with a few rank A skills that were not worthy of mentioning currently that would be used for skill combination once their proficiency rises. I looked in the messy attribute panel at the skills that continued to show their effectiveness that I regularly used. Skills: Beagle Eyes, 100, B Dark Assassin, 100, A Flight, 100, A Instant Transfer, 98. A Infernal Purge, 100, A Ultra Regeneration, 94, A Spear of Destiny, 95, A Pain Resistance, 100, A Recorder, 43. A Combusting Spears, 69, A Language Comprehension, 42, A Earth Armor, 77, Obscure, 78, A Arctic Zone, 53, S Volcanic Eruption, 79, S Summon Virulent Abomination, 89. S Rage of the Thunder Monarch, 77, S All Element Resistance, 5, S Protection of the Wounded, 2. The rank S skills were rising slowly with some more than halfway through to max proficiency. On the messy side of the many lower-ranked skills on the panel, some B+ defense and support skills were nearing 100. I should be able to gain some new rank A skills from skill combination B. The end of the day, I moved my eyes expectantly from the panel to the cold and snowy surroundings around me as the virulent abomination finished off any beasts that neared. We were only on the outer ring of this large floating landmass, but we neared the distance when the one leading the previous extermination task force had to stop. I didn't want to go too far into come in contact with an epic ranked beast so fast, so I would proceed with caution and see if I can get another rank S skill before calling it a day and preparing for that possibly impactful rendezvous in the magnificently floating snowy peak of the Frozen Kingdom. We slowly moved further in, making sure to proceed carefully. I spread my attention through the barely visible trees around us while using eagle eyes to check for the incoming beasts. My attention was fully on reconnaissance as the virulent abomination took the brunts of the fight. Our progress becoming slower as we moved in. Powerful beasts were present the deeper we went, and we soon came across 3 rank S leaders commanding a large group of beasts towards us. I looked excitedly towards these ugly-looking monsters as they already seemed like the perfect loot in my eyes. We waited for the large groups of beasts to come to us and moved back as we fought, putting a safe distance for the fight not to take place any closer inland. The virulent abomination clashed with the groups led by the 2 rank S bosses, its body quickly becoming shredded when 2 of the leaders attacked it in conjunction. The other leader was making its way towards me, its large body moving at fast speeds and evading the cold blasts of Arctic Zone as it neared. The beasts that were ravaging the summon thought they had won as they tore through its wings and tough muscles, but were dismayed. Soon after, when the abomination exploded in front of them, boom! The impact took out many of the normal surrounding beasts and heavily wounded the 2 leaders that were ganging up on it. Not a moment after, a large malachite rune bore out a completely brand new abomination that jumped back into the fight. The leader targeting me was finally caught by one of the Arctic zones as its attention was pulled away, its figure slowing down and allowing me to cast even more of the skill where it stood. Its body let out uncomfortable sounds as the destructive cold elements that appeared tried to break down its defenses unsuccessfully. Rage of the Thunder Monarch and Volcanic Eruption would be its only respite as its large figure took multiple strikes of the roiling purple lightning and molten flames, letting out screeching howls before it fell to the continued casts of the skills. I continued to keep looking out to our surroundings as I neared the body of the dead rank S boss and received a golden skill book and cores. The 3rd rank S skill edition of the day would be Saint's Phantom. A mirage of a saint from long ago appears for 10 seconds, using its powerful magic to heal all wounds and dispel any major negative effects. I learned the skill right away and looked ahead to the summon that had ripped apart one of the beasts it was facing and was now clashing with the final one. At this point in time, though, I saw a drastic change to the area ahead of us that I had been continuously watching with eagle eyes. A powerful figure was rushing towards us like a speeding bullet train, its body ignoring the extremely sturdy trees shooting up to the skies as it knocked onto them and blasted through in a straight-line dam. I quickly used instant transfer to the body of one of the dead leaders and obtained another skill book and cores, before I turned my head at full speed and used eagle eyes with instant transfer again to appear more than a mile away from the location. Boom. I heard the impact the moment I disappeared as the large beast that was coming towards us smashed onto the virulent abomination and wrecked the summon through the trees around it. I only briefly watched as glistening white claws shredded into the chest of my summon before it exploded into the blast of flesh and bones that slightly pushed the figure back. The beast showed slight injuries as some its fur became tinted green, but they soon turned spotlessly white as its piercing eyes found my figure more than a mile away. Another virulent abomination appeared in my location as I used instant transfer to appear at a distance another mile away, sending the summon to hold back the beast. Yeah, fuck that. I used instant transfer multiple times until I neared the periphery of the nest again, not looking behind as I continued flashing away. When I was more than a few miles away and could see the floating landmass in the distance, a resounding roar of anger that could be heard from here broke out. I steadied my breathing as I continued to fly away from the nest, remembering the information I read that powerful beasts did not rush out of the nest they were in unless a truly powerful one had united many of the beasts congregated together to attack the lands surrounding them. This hadn't occurred for the past years in this area as the number of beasts was regularly reduced, with powerful adventurers and mercenaries forming parties to take down leaders that rose past Rankus every few years. The roars of the angered beasts continued, and became distant as I continued to fly away. My heart was beating at a fast pace as I thought about the epic ranked beast that I almost clashed with. Not yet. Not yet. I had to play it safe until the skills I collected rose in proficiency, and I stood no chance of losing my life while fighting against such a beast. My life was too important for me to play around without having full confidence. Once the proficiency of the rank S skills rose, I would be back to take down this powerful beast. It was highly dangerous, but would also be extremely profitable. Other people could not gain power exceeding rank S just by defeating an epic ranked boss. But I could, and I was looking forward to it. Chapter 79. Meeting. I moved away from the floating sky peak nest and flew back towards the large fortress walls in the distance. I took out the skill book that I managed to grab before the appearance of the powerful epic ranked beast. It was Profane Eruption. Affect the bodies of slain enemies to violently burst, releasing poisonous blight in an area of 5 meters. I recalled the multitude of dead bodies that piled up whenever I fought and looked forward to using this the next time. The cold winds in the skies as well as the voluminous snow that always fell in the frozen kingdom became comforting and cooled the tension I felt in my body. I flew down once I neared the fortress wall, with the crowds that came in and out thinning as night neared, with the increasing fear and tension of demons plaguing the lands. Most of the merchants that made their business traveling between kingdoms and selling their goods had to put their lives on the line. The roles of adventurers and mercenaries further increased to protect merchants and key figures that travel around. They had to have someone powerful in case they came across a squadron of demons moving across the lands. I passed the heavily protected gates with no issue and found myself back in the beautiful entrance town that seemed to be coming to life with the advent of the night sky. I recalled the invitation I had received as well as the golden plaque I held in my storage ring. This person that had taken an interest in me and called for a meeting out of the blue might be an extremely important step during my time in the Frozen Kingdom, and I couldn't take it lightly. I had added 4 more rank S skills in my arsenal and felt all the more safer, but I still had to move with caution. I would take this risk with the meeting now and see what results come from it. I found myself moving past the rows of businesses that began their work, as well as the barely dressed women that seemed to literally be materializing from the dark corners of inns. My destination this time was the long bridge that snaked all the way up to the floating snowy peak high up in the distance. 2 guards still stood side by side and carefully inspected everyone going up, only letting known people with a high status pass through without checking. I took out the golden plaque I received from the woman that called herself Knight as I made my way to the bridge. The guards on either sides looked at me briefly before their gazes went away. The first step I took on the bridge felt like a starting point for something entirely new ever created with the blue glowing gems that lined the opposite sides and its extreme width. It stood in the sky with very little movement as I climbed up. I had counted the bridge was built with complex artistry and looked like the most expensive stairs ever created with the blue glowing gems that lined the opposite sides and its extreme width. It stood in the sky with very little movement as I climbed up. I had counted more than 300 steps before I came across two extravagantly dressed women making their way down that gave me curious looks. Another few minutes passed as I stopped enjoying the scenes high in the air while looking down at the twinkling lights below. And I ascended the entire bridge into a brand new region that seemed entirely different than what I've been seeing. There were normal-sized trees with white leaves lined up from the bridge and heading into the snowy peak. The smooth road paved beautifully as this place seemed twice as exquisite as the land below us. The path forked as I went further in, and the end of the path held a figure of someone that seemed larger than 3 meters. The figure had a wild aura that definitely exceeded rank S. As they stood guard on the path right off the bridge entering Snowy Peak, the being had their body encased in a similar white armor that I had seen many of the guards wear, with only their head remaining uncovered. It was the head that surprised me. As it glowed with a fiery light and had a full mane all around it, the figure had the striking head that closely matched that of the fiercest lion. This was a powerful beast folk that was not to be trifled with. I calmed my beating heart after meeting this guard that was most likely of epic rank. As I considered what path to choose, they had given me the message to come to a place called the White Courtyard, but I had no idea where that was. I was planning on speaking to the guard when a dark-clothed figure flashed into being on the right path. It looked to be the same one that I had met yesterday. As they bowed towards me and indicated for me to follow them, grand buildings came to light as we walked further in. And I started seeing throngs of people carrying themselves with a level of arrogance walk in and out of luxurious-looking stores and restaurants. The dark-clothed woman I was following took us behind a certain building and knocked on it rapidly, causing a release mechanism as a hidden door appeared on the ground leading to a dimly lit pathway. I jumped in with her as she spoke for the first time today. The lady wanted to take even more extreme measures to stop any outside intervention or peering eyes. "We will arrive at the White Courtyard shortly." I nodded at her words as we followed the hidden path snaking its way underground. Eventually following it up to a small courtyard, we unearthed ourselves into an all-white room that gave out a calming feeling as the hidden door closed behind us. Night led the way through a few more doors, and I soon found myself face to face with a veiled figure similar to someone I had seen not too long ago. I tried not to show the shock on my face as it dawned on me that the figure I took the interest of wore the same clothed veil of a high-profile person that even the powerful rank S captain just wanted to be in the presence of. Night quickly bowed and receded from the room, closing the door with a click as multiple magical barriers began enclosing the room we were in. The veiled figure stood up and took a small curtsy while lifting up her dress and pushing her head down a little. The dark veil that covered her in entirety disappeared right after as the most stunning face I had ever seen revealed itself to my eyes. The face had a detached and cold expression with dark eyes that piercingly shone in the night. A bountiful head full of dazzling blue hair came into light as the figure fully revealed itself to me. A clearly expectant voice that seemed to betray the icy expression rang out, "Esteemed sir, thank you for taking the time to meet me." Every word that came out of the white lips of this person seemed to be dripping with elegance as I shook myself out of my reverie and calmly spoke. "It's no problem if I can be forward. Who do I have the pleasure of meeting today?" The figure rose their cold face up high as the clear voice that I can definitely confirm showed more excitement compared to the frozen face rang out. "I am the second child of King Rourke Belmont of the Frozen Kingdom, the ice princess that holds control of the snowy peak we stand on. My name is Adelaide Belmont, and it is my deepest pleasure to welcome you here." Chapter 80, Building Trust. I was trying to control my emotions to the best of my abilities as I met with the person I had longed to meet. My unique skill continued to show, his body shining with a golden light to such an extent that the murky gray light that surrounded me started to recede. This was the person that would prevent my death and the incoming calamity. I had to find a way to gain his favor. No matter what, my mind that was always scheming was drawing a blank when it came to this person. As I really knew very little about him and had no information to work with, he had appeared randomly not too long ago, showing an average power of rank S with an ability that granted him slightly more mana than average. The only time the calm expression left his face was when he ate, where it seemed he was enjoying the food so much that a smile always bloomed. From the mercenaries that were with him, I found this esteemed person's name to be Noah Osmond. All of these were things I found out in a matter of a day after using the full force of my information agency to follow the movements of this person since the day he appeared, but I still had nothing to work with, making me very frustrated. The nobles that stood against me were met with swift destruction because of the many secrets I was able to dip my hands into, but I had nothing to build on for the current person. My mind cleared as I chose the most simplest approach for now: honesty. I squinted at the face that continued to shine blindingly as I spoke. I am the second child of King Rourke Belmont of the Frozen Kingdom, the ice princess that holds control of the snowy peak we stand on. My name is Adelaide Belmont, and it is my deepest pleasure to welcome you here. Honesty, this was something that many people overlooked, but could always be trusted when used properly. I continued, trying to keep my voice as stable as possible. Sir Osmond, I only have the purest of intentions for calling you here, but I do not know how to proceed given the subject of the matter. Yes, how do I tell someone that I just met about a huge calamity approaching us and that he would be the one to save me from my untimely death without sounding just a tad bit crazy? How can I build trust with this person without seeming too eager or with a hostile motive? I would see if blatant honesty with no sophistry would do the trick. His gaze that motioned for me to continue felt like a tremendous weight pressing down. I have a peculiar, unique skill that tells me who I should associate with and who I shouldn't. You are the first person I met that the skill is calling for the strongest association with. There was silence in the air as the words left my mouth. I had exposed a secret about my unique skill that nobody else knew. My mother died with this secret, as even her husband was left in the dark. But I took this risk because I had full trust in Golden Rule that continued to give the same message even now: stick to this person as much as possible. Now, how would you respond to a vulnerable girl exposing her secret to you? The dazzling woman, Princess Adelaide, continued to surprise me with every sentence she spoke. When I heard her last words, I had to take a few seconds and replay them with recorder to see if I heard correctly. This was the princess of the Frozen Kingdom, someone who controlled one of the peaks and the favored daughter of the current king. From her words, associating with me will be something extremely beneficial to her. I quickly thought about my own position and the goals I had when I descended into this world. I was someone unique with nearly unlimited power. I planned to quickly raise my power and influence and disrupt the invasion of demons in this world, ultimately taking it for myself. The things she was saying about a unique skill that informed her of which people to surround herself with did not seem that far-fetched. So let's say she really is telling the truth. My heart increased its beatings as I was fully realizing the new possibilities. If the words of this person were true, I had planned to rise to the top of this kingdom in strength and take the lead of creating huge achievements while fighting the demonic forces that would surely come, only making grand moves after that. But with this person, I could see another, much accelerated path forming. I looked at the blue-haired woman who still had the same cold expression and said, "You really believe that someone of my level of strength will have an impact on someone of your standing?" "Yes. I wholly believe in my unique skill. It has never once been wrong. With that being said, I would love to work closely with you for the future. Whatever you need, let me know. I will provide you all the power I hold, while providing you with the most critical of information." I listened to words that seemed too good to be true. The princess of this kingdom would give me her full support in whatever I wanted to do because her skill told her so? Very well. This is an opportunity too big to pass up. I would use it to potentially take over this land in a much shorter time span than I thought possible. A possible period of a year or more could possibly be cut down to months. All right, I'll play. As a measure of goodwill to start off our relationship, I will share the biggest secret about the intrusion of demon kings that are currently building their forces in the center of the continent. This is a secret that only the royalty of the remaining kingdoms have access to, and something that would definitely be of benefit to you. With a wave of hand, an exquisite table appeared between us with two seats on opposite sides. Sparkling trays of food began to appear one after another as one of the golden rings on her slender fingers continued to shine. The table was soon filled to the brim with the most ethereal food I had ever come across as she motioned for me to sit. Let me take some of your time to describe the huge secret of the conspiracy that brought down the most powerful kingdom of this world into the hands of demons.